Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. And this one is self-employed secret number 2. And this is lease versus buy. This is another really common area of questions and concerns that business owners have, because almost every business owner, I can't think of one actually that I haven't had, where they haven't had a decision to make, and that decision was either to lease versus buy anything from a car, a piece of equipment, or even office space. So on a lease versus buy decision, let me just give you kind of the parameters of what you need to look at in order to make a good decision here. The first thing I try to tell people is don't guess, because the outcome is kind of surprising. But what I do is I'll kind of sit down and really go through an analysis on both lease versus buy on every situation. And what I look at is the following. If someone leases a piece of equipment, one advantage of a lease is you usually have less down payment and you have a lower monthly payment. The problem is, of course, on the end of the lease, there could be a substantial buyout, either a fair market value buyout, which is, and many leases have either what's called a closed-end lease or an open-ended lease. And unfortunately, some of these leases on a fair market buyout, you could actually be paying for that equipment a couple times. So it's easy to get in, lower down payment and a lower monthly payment. But the lease usually has a little higher interest rate and can have some unexpected surprises if you don't read the fine print to see what type of lease it is. What is the buyout? You need to ask that question. At the end of the 60th month, or if it's a car and it's only in a 36 month, at the end of 36 months, do I have a fixed buyout price, or is it basically open to fair market value? So you need to be really aware of that. One of the advantages of purchasing a vehicle, for example, a car or a truck, especially like an SUV that has over 6,000 pound vehicle weight, is that there's some real benefits of tax deductions, accelerated write-offs up front, and we get bonus depreciation. Sometimes we get Section 179 depreciation, and we are able to expense a lot more of the vehicle or equipment in the earlier years than you would be on a straight lease. So the depreciation deduction, if that's important to you, if you're making good money, then you may have a tendency to go more towards the purchase or the buy end of the transaction, not the lease end. I personally like the buy end of it because I like to know that when I'm done making my payments, I own it. That there's not another big lump sum check that I've got to write in order to buy out that lease at the end. And I also like the fact that on a purchase, even though I have the negative, which is I have to put more of a down payment usually, I also know I get a little lower interest rate, because obviously the risk factor for the seller or the person that's holding the financing paper on a purchase is less because I've had more of a down payment. So a little more of a down payment disadvantage, but the benefit on the other side of it is you have a fixed buyout at the end. There's no guesswork on it. You know you own that piece of equipment or that auto at the end of it. You're not guessing, okay? And you also get a little lower interest rate on that. So you kind of have to weigh, do you want the cash flow advantage of a lease, or do you want the tax advantage of a buy? And in most cases, if you can afford to purchase it, buy it, okay? Not in all cases, but in most of them that I've experienced. So that applies on real estate, and applies on equipment, or even vehicles. So have your accountant do a good analysis. If you don't feel like you've got somebody competent, we at the Haas Institute can take that responsibility for you and help you with these and many other decisions that you need to make every day in your business. We're here to help.